What's up, everyone? Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Q. We're continuing our deep dive into the people that run their teams from behind the scenes, what drives them, and how they're preparing for playoffs and beyond. Now, today we've got Tricia Sugita, CEO of FlyQuest. Welcome. How are you doing today, Tricia?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for pronouncing my last name correctly.
Well, thank you for coaching me on it. But it's something that I always make an effort to do, and maybe actually something we'll get into, just the idea of identity much further down the line. But it's something that I've always been very curious about in the scene of esports with a bunch of young people, a bunch of young multiple people, how people in positions of authority like yourself, begin to shape, mold, and kind of educate young people on how to become more whole humans and build an identity. We can get much further into that, but I just want to check in with you, Tricia. FlyQuest has been on kind of this monster of a path over the last 8 months, just kind of taking the LCS by storm, and so much of it has come off the back end of you joining as the CEO. But I first want to understand how you got into the position of CEO before we get into everything that you've done for the organization. So maybe walk me through a little bit of your journey to where you're at now.
Actually, before we begin, I just wanted to really thank you guys. I'm so excited to be on the Q.
Oh, thank you.
I truly mean it from the bottom of my heart. I love the content, and I'm really excited for the questions that you guys prepared. I can tell that you guys did your homework and your due diligence. So first off the bat, thank you.
Well, that means the world to me, and hopefully to everyone else behind the scenes on this project.
Yes,
thank you very much.
People should know.
Awesome.
So back to your question. So you'll have to bear with me a bit. I have quite a history in esports.
Yeah.
So I started my career in esports, competing and streaming Starcraft 2. Then I did interviewing and hosted for major esports events such as IPL 3, IPL 4, and 5, MLG. And, that was before Riot started to do their own tournaments, for those of you who don't know. In 2014, I joined the streaming platform Azubu TV as their global director of esports, where I negotiated multi-million-dollar contracts with broadcasting partners, and I was responsible for increasing website traffic to over 12 million UMVs, or uniquely monthly visitors. Then in 2017, I joined Immortals and LA Valiant as the head of partnerships, where I secured major partnerships from AG Worldwide and Omen by HP.
Okay.
And so now here at FlyQuest, I'm using my decade of industry experience to build out, hopefully, a new kind of esports organization that reflects my core values of kindness, grace, and strength, really an homage to nature. This is why I love nature. And I created and developed the company vision of Showcase Greatness, which is not only the belief that greatness already exists within everyone. I want to highlight the already portion, but also a call to action for FlyQuest to help people find and showcase it. So that's my history.
I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning of the history, because there's one very important question we need to ask. Terran, Protoss, Zerg.
I was a Terran player.
Okay, acceptable. As long as you weren't a Zerg player, I'm okay with that.
To be fair, I did play random too sometimes.
Okay. Well, I imagine it to be a high level player. I was not high level in real time strategy games, but I imagine to be high level, you have to have some proficiency across all of them. I realize top level players generally specialize, but I'm sure it probably aided you to be able to play all three of the races.
Yeah, actually, just because I was doing hosting, casting, and interviewing for Starcraft 2 while I was a streamer, it behooved me to have some street cred and be able to say, hey, I'm top 8 masters when that was the highest.
Yeah.
So I made it a point to not only get that on NA, but also EU server, because I had haters who thought like, oh, she's only, top
Preaching
8
to the choir.
Terran, or only because of Terran. So I made a whole streamathon where I played every single race and made sure I hit them all to masters.
Shut them up.
It's not just because I'm Terran. It's not just because I'm NA. I did it on EU as well. So I feel you there.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Yeah. Same thing as a host. I was like, got to hit Diamond in League just so that people will stop. Stop undercutting my credibility. But so you've also, even within that history alone, you've kind of touched every aspect of this industry. From player to content creator and entertainer to broadcast side, and now on the team side.
Yes.
So what was it specifically about being on the team side that attracted you there ultimately, as opposed to you staying in the broadcast world?
Yeah, great question. So I think I also have to share a bit of my non-esports background.
Mm-hmm.
So while I was a streamer and hosting events such as IPL 3, 4, and 5, or doing casting or interviews, kind of all of that,
Yeah.
basically on-camera talent. I had not a part-time job, sorry. My part-time job was esports. My full-time job was to do CRM and ERP implementation. So I worked on the ops side. I've done sales since I'm 16 years old.
Excuse me, I don't know those acronyms. I
So
apologize.
basically, my job was to help optimize businesses by setting up like a software, if you will, that
Okay.
everyone uses to clock in for like clock out, to manage their general ledger, their accounts payable, receivable, uh, distribution, just everything that a company would use to like log on, from signing on to doing all their tasks to putting their responsibilities, is there. So I would work
Gotcha.
with companies to talk to their CTOs, CMOs, basically all the heads of every company and their division, and seeing how their process is. And my job was to figure out, how can I streamline your process, how can I make it better, what are the steps I can do to automate, just the most efficient way as possible, just basically ops. For CRM, it's more on the side of like a contact management tool,
Okay.
where you manage relationships. So that's what it really stands for. It's managing relationships. So it's usually for the partnerships team, sales teams, or account management team, for them to track all of their leads to their opportunities, show what's in the pipeline for sales, what you're forecasting, all the way to once the account is closed. Now you can manage the account and see like, what are the deliverables we need to do, et cetera, et cetera.
So this is wild to me, because again, like, I mean, first of all, what can't you do? Maybe that would have been an easier question to start off with. But secondarily, again, this just all seems to serve the idea that you have a really well-rounded view of not only the industry but also how business functions, right? Just on a more basic, plain level, you seem to have this
Yeah,
incredibly
sorry.
high
I don't know if I
business
went too
acumen.
much. Yeah. Yeah, I should have just started with CRM. So it's just like a customer relationship management tool. So you just
Yeah.
manage your relationships. But yes, on that point, I got my first job when I was 16 because my parents made me work. So
Hmm.
that was when I worked at the mall, at a mall kiosk, and I sold makeup, and I learned that you can make a lot of money on commission in sales, and I learned that I'm very good at that, and I'm a
Okay.
people person, and I love people. So I started off, if you look at my history, actually, from 16 years old, I sold everything from makeup to Cutco knives to, you know, eventually software, enterprise solutions like
Yeah.
CRM, ERP. And then I started off on the sales side, actually. And then I realized, like, I actually don't want to just sell the user count and also, work with a business consultant to do the implementation. I actually can do it myself. So I learned that. So I actually became like a hybrid, where I
Hmm.
sold the users, the software, such as, like, let's pretend Salesforce. And then I would get a company on. Some of our clients were like Herbalife and so forth. And so then I wanted to do the work itself. So if I sold the
Right.
services of, here's the implementation, here's how we're going to set it up, I did both sides. So I've always loved that. And actually, when I joined Azubu TV, because most people on esports just saw, my stream or things I'm hosting or interviewing, they brought me on as a community manager.
Hmm.
And within a week, they're like, this is not the right job for you. Can you lead all of our accounts and all of our partnerships? And
Wow.
so after a week, they promoted me into the senior esports director. And then I think like a month in, they promoted me to the global director of esports. And our department was directly responsible for the milestones from our investors. So our investors gave us 1 million unique monthly viewers to 5 million to 10. And I over delivered for 12 million under budget. And
Wow. My
that
goodness.
was a huge accomplishment for me. Unfortunately, even though we brought potential opportunities to our investors, they didn't close. But we
Hmm.
actually had a lot of opportunities that I think could have changed Azubu. But for some reason, our investors thought they could get $1 billion deal just like Twitch, which is not going to
Woo.
happen again.
Yeah.
So, but we, behind the scenes, I did bring them really great deals from very prominent companies.
Right.
And so after that, I actually took a hiatus and took a big break and didn't work for 8 months because I was totally burnt out. I worked 16 hours a day for years. And because this
Yeah.
is a queue, I will share everything. I
I
actually got
love
like
it.
3 bald spots on my head, like just the
What?
top from stress.
No
Because,
way.
we had over hundreds of employees and contractors, and my department was directly responsible for the milestones. Like our milestones were literally just the unique monthly viewers
Yeah.
or visitors. And every week, our CEO would make me have a company meeting and announce who we signed, what the metrics were, and all of that. And if I didn't have somebody we close with a deal, then I also had to announce that my team didn't do anything. So I felt a lot of burden on my
That's
shoulders, like we won't have a job if we don't hit these numbers.
right.
And so I took a break because like I did my job. I over delivered, and they chose not to take it. And sometimes
Right.
that's the name of a game. Your investors are everything
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, and knowing when to say no and when to walk away are
Exactly.
very
I took
valuable
a break.
skills to have in life. And so I'm so happy that you took that break, and then I'm so happy that ultimately you ended up here in the LCS, and that's where let's now transition a little bit
Actually,
into.
sorry,
Oh yes,
because I didn't answer your question really, but I joined the team side because I always wanted to. Because
yeah,
since when I started streaming, the whole purpose of me getting into esports, kind of back to why I showed my history, is because I wanted to make people happy. I
mm,
thought I can make kind of like a prototype of paradise on earth, if you will, through my channel, and I can reach people globally through esports. Like that could be my platform. And so when I went on the broadcast side, my intention was hopefully I can influence the broadcasters to do something good with their platform,
right.
influence people. And the team side was like, I can do it even more closer to the players. So that has always actually been my dream to be on the team side.
Awesome. Okay, I love that. So let's talk about actually ending up at FlyQuest specifically, why that organization. Let's talk about when you were looking at organizations. Was this idea of showcasing greatness already in your mind, or was that something that you came to once joining FlyQuest, saying this is the right brand for this org? Which came first? Was it kind of like, this is the kind of family I want to find, and then you went and found it, or this is the org that's going to give me a chance, and this is what I think is right for them?
Ooh,
Does
good.
that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. So honestly, I've always had this intention for my Bear Cubs. These are my fans that used to watch my stream. I have always been about this. So a lot of the things that you'll see at FlyQuest, such as like our Ikebana arrangements, about expressing gratitude, about practicing gratitude, about helping others, serving others. That has something that I've always done, and that's like my personal vision, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always tried to do that through work. Like that's why I got into esports. That's why I started streaming. That's why I went on the broadcast side. That's why I'm on the team side. And FlyQuest, I know this sounds so cliche, but truly is like my dream job, because it is the first time that I'm not the solo person trying to do this personally. Like I'm just using my work as a platform. This
Mm-hmm.
is actually my work giving me the platform to be able to do this and manifest this. And so that is what, why when Ryan recruited me, when admittedly I was at Immortals, I couldn't turn it down,
Right.
because this was the first time my personal vision aligned with a company, and I had the opportunity to try to do good in the world and get paid for it.
Yeah.
That's like the dream.
Feels like a win-win, right?
Yes.
you would think. But I think there's one really interesting distinction in that you talked about a little bit of your background in sales, selling products, physical products at times, right? Cutco
Yes.
knives. We're talking all the way back at the age of
When I'm
16 and stuff.
16.
Right. But what's interesting to me is that the LCS it is also sales in a sense. You are selling a team. But I think the issue is that the team itself is not necessarily a physical product. You're selling the brand of FlyQuest,
Yes.
and you're selling the brand of Show Greatness, and so you're trying to get an audience built around that. What are the differences maybe that you've encountered, or difficulties that you've encountered, in that what you are selling is more of an idea and a brand than a physical product where you can show, like, look, this knife works. It's hard to show
Or
case
Salesforce makes you
greatness.
more efficient
And
and brings up your sales numbers or something.
right. But to just have this kind of nebulous, or to have this identity of, we are, the Live Good team. We are the environmentally friendly,
Mhm.
you know, empowerment and, kind of team. Like, how do you sell that? How do you, where does that begin in the conference rooms for you guys to start these endeavors? You come up with a lot of cool tools, but I want to know how you generated those ideas.
Yeah. So I think my sales background has actually helped a lot. And in my humble opinion, to be good at sales, you can't just focus on product differentiation. Like, you have to understand the user or your audience's pain points, first of all. If you don't understand their pain points, then you can't provide a solution. That's one. And you have to really speak to them and know what is important to them. And I think taking that same approach is the approach that we took with esports. And because I've been in esports working for over a decade now. Like, I'm a true fan. Like, I watch myself. I get upset at games. I get upset when things are done poorly. Like,
Right.
I, enjoy memes, even if it's not our teams, memes. If you look even on my Twitter timeline, I'm like retweeting other teams, which is probably weird for some people to see because I just like good content.
Rising tides. Yep.
Yeah. And so the first thing that we worked on was establishing our company vision. And the reason for that is because you have to define your why.
Mm-hmm.
What is your purpose? What is going to be your differentiator? And for me, working in, like you mentioned, like I've worked in many different places in esports, so I have, experience. I've received many decks from teams saying why you should sponsor us.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how we're different. And the truth is, most of those decks only focus on product differentiation. And what I mean by that is they focus on the game titles they have, the numbers, their metrics, their competitive achievements, and etc.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to stress product differentiation is very important.
Right.
But before you do that, before you talk about that and how you can solve pain points, etc., what really differentiates you from a brand and how do you build brand equity? And I think that is the why. So that is, for example, FlyQuest showcase greatness. At the end of the day, if you strip away our wins, our losses, can you still stand by us?
Yeah.
Does it resonate with you what we're doing, why we're doing it? And hopefully when you hear, about, you guys are giving me the opportunity to tell a bit of my story in FlyQuest, you can see like it's genuine, like it's always been about this. And hopefully that will make everything that we're doing that much more meaningful. So I think that approach of the why of the showcase greatness is the first thing you work on. And actually that's why when I first joined FlyQuest in 2018, that was the first thing I worked on. When, of course our owners is like, what are our opportunities? What is our marketing strategy? What is, et cetera, et cetera. Let's dive in. Let's start.
Yeah.
I put a hold of, hey, I know you want to get in that. I do too. And I'm really excited. But the first thing we need to work on is our company vision. And I really fought for that because that is our North Star. That is where everything starts from. That is who we hire. That is the players that should be part of the calculation of the players that we sign.
Yeah.
Not just their achievement, because does it represent our brand? Do the
Right.
people we're hiring, do they also believe in this? Not that our staff can't disagree with what we're saying, but
Right.
ultimately,
No,
do they
totally.
believe in this, right? Because I want to have this showcase greatness as an inspiration to them so that they can take this direction and run with it and make whatever inspires them, through content, through design, through etc., through showcase greatness, right? As the first direction, as that clear direction, as the first thing we think about from the partners we sign.
Right.
Are we going to be in a position where we decline a really fat check, which is really hard to do, because they don't align with our goals and our vision, because, that will muddy kind of our messaging. And so I think that was the first thing. And that's why it was so obvious to create like showcase greatness first.
Yeah. No real question attached to this, but I imagine it has to be incredibly difficult, again, specifically within sports, when you're looking at players to say, where's that line? Where do we draw that line of like, where the person aligns with our brand to their ability, and like, where are we willing to sacrifice, or are we willing to sacrifice any amount of our brand equity, for the shot at the title? Because there is definitely this discussion in esports where if you reduce it down to its most basic form, the thing that matters at the end of the day is the team's, is winning and losing, winning and losing and winning that title. And so there could be an argument made that like, hey, all the brand work in the world is all for naught if you can never put a trophy in the case, and does your brand ever get in the way of your ability to bring a trophy in-house? You know, I'm not suggesting that it is in FlyQuest, but is that ever
Yeah.
something that's eating at you in the back of your brain? You know, like, have I, you know, we built this environment, but is this really the environment of a championship winning team? You know, will this attract the people, you know, the right people? And how do you have that confidence that you will?
Yeah. Look, I think our company vision makes things simpler, but not easier, if
Oh,
that makes
okay.
sense. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it provides direction in the partners we want to sign or partner with, right? Are they aligned with us? It
Mm-hmm.
provides direction on the players that fit our brand, but also it's a balancing act, like you mentioned, of, you know, we want to win. This player, let's pretend, very toxic, very not wholesome, not FlyQuest.
Player X.
Yeah,
Yeah.
player X, but they will help us win worlds. And I think that is a discussion that we're very open with, honestly.
Yeah.
So I have a good relationship with our general manager, and we talk about this all the time, from like, how are we going to message this issue that we have? How are we going to message it externally? You know, there's a consequence of if we associate ourselves with a player, for one, like looking at PR and brand itself, and just like
Mm-hmm.
more for FlyQuest. If we take a stance against them, it does protect us, right? And that's what we have to balance. At the same time, I do also very much care about our player integrity. And by that, I mean, when our players make a mistake, it's very easy for organizations to say they're no longer with us, or they're going to get fined, or, you know, that was nothing to do with our brand, that was on them, and kind of throw them under the bus, if you will. And I
Right.
think that's something that FlyQuest has done really well. Like, I want to point to that as an example, because we've had missteps in some of our previous staff or players.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of just saying outright, you know, they messed up,
Yeah.
and it would seem like such an obvious thing for FlyQuest, because like, we're wholesome, we're good, we can't let anything tarnish us. Instead, we really take a holistic approach of, we talk to the players, we do an investigation, because we're also trying to balance our competitive integrity. I don't
Yeah.
want players to feel that they're not safe. If you make a mistake, FlyQuest is just going to say, hey, that's you, that's on you, and that's you separately, right? The
Right.
player in this. We're a team at the end of the day. And that's something I really emphasize. We're one team. Like, it's not just competitive in business. It is one team. We're all playing for the same thing. We all have one company in mind. So we have to balance not just our PR and our branding, but we also have to balance, like, how protected do our players feel? Do they feel heard? You know, and that's why I think we have some like hot things against us, and why we've taken like, hey, we're talking about this internally. We don't take such a hard stance because we're handling it with the player, and we're working through that with them. And I think as long as they understand, that is enough for us. Of course, if they do something crazy and obscene, God forbid,
Right.
you know, we'll take a different approach. But I think that example is how we're looking at everything, like with partnerships, with the revenue it brings in, with what it says about our brand, you know, to the players we sign, you know, how much can they help us? You know, we're missing a hole in, let's say, top. We had an issue, you know, in top lane for a bit,
Yeah.
and we've made some changes in bot lane. We're balancing that with winning, but also everything else. So it is not just like a black and white thing for us. It takes a lot of deliberation.
Yeah, we very much operate in the gray area, and the quicker
Yeah.
we can all come to that realization, the better we'll all be for it. Talking about success, though, FlyQuest has actually found a whole bunch of it, right? And so while I brought up that conundrum of having to balance performance with brand identity, FlyQuest in a lot of ways you guys have been sitting pretty here in 2020 with second place spring finish, doing well so far here in summer, sitting in third seed going into playoffs up against Cloud9 for our spring finals rematch here. Like, all signs point to fantastic for Tricia's first 8 months as CEO at FlyQuest. But how much would you say your success as an org, like, have you been able to identify how much of it is attached to the team's success, that second and third place finishes, versus these Go Green initiatives, everything that we saw in spring? I mean, I so miss our tailgate days, but I'll recall
Yes.
when we were able to tailgate, and opening day, I did the Japanese flower arranging with you
Yes.
specifically, and I had a flower in my hair, and it was so fun. And like, FlyQuest was on the map immediately at that moment. But how has the company identified, where your fans are coming from. Are they fans because of FlyQuest? Are they fans because of the players on FlyQuest? Are they fans because FlyQuest is winning? Like, you know, how do you identify the success of your initiatives?
Going back, I'll just say it's a team effort. I think everything is important. A lot of times I get asked this question of what is more important, winning or content?
Yeah.
And I strongly think it's both. Dude, you have to do well at everything. It's rough. It is tough to get fans because there's a difference, I think, between somebody who's cool with your brand, and thinks that, I like this team versus actually being a fan and hitting that follow button.
Right.
It's very hard to get followers. There's a lot of people who I stand FlyQuest. I support them. I'll cheer for them, but I don't follow them. I don't really watch all their stuff, or I might not buy their stuff. But they're awesome because they do Go Green Initiative, they do Tree Quest, they do Sea Quest. I see that a lot, and I think you have to hit every angle. It's so important. I don't think one is more important than the other. I think you have to do both well. I think you have to do awesome content. I think we have to continue with building our brand equity, with telling our story, with doing more initiatives, with doing more campaigns and doing it better and topping them off. It's August and I'm already working on 2021, to be honest with you. And also, we have to win. And that's actually why FlyQuest focuses so heavily on League of Legends. We're focusing because we want to shine in all aspects of what we're doing. And I'm just a big believer on focus on your own game. This applies to when you're playing games.
Right.
If you're mid lane, I usually play mid lane or sometimes support. Yeah, if I'm busy pinging my bot lane, I'm why don't you ward this? I'm not gonna get as much CS as I could have farmed, right? I might not be able to roam or make a call out and see something on my mini map, which won't happen because I'm a Starcraft player. But you know what I mean? So I'm just a big thing of focus on your own game, trust your team, and so I trust our competitive staff implicitly to do their job, and my job is to just make sure that they can do their job. If that makes sense. People ask me what is your job?
No,
in a nutshell, my job is to just empower our staff and make sure they can do their job, give them direction, provide that vision, make that call to action really clear, and trust everyone and focus. Because the minute I stop focusing on what I need to do and put my resources somewhere else, then no one's doing my job, right? And so
I totally get it, and I'm so not envious of anybody in a leadership position.
It's hard sometimes.
I never want that responsibility. Yeah, because I think you actually just encapsulated it really well too. Because people from my position, I look up at people above me and I go, yeah, what are they doing? Because it seems like they're just kind of making sure that everyone else is doing what they're supposed to do. But the reality of that is that that's a job in and of itself. But also, I think it comes back to that point of alignment around brand, goal, vision, and everything like that, right? Where it's you are essentially charged with checking in on all those projects and say, hey, can I still draw that line back to that central focus of this organization?
Yes, you said that perfectly.
Okay.
So actually, do you mind if we talk about Showcase Greatness a bit? Because we talked about it. So, okay. So for those of you who don't know, and maybe just watching for the first time or hearing about this and what is Tricia saying? Showcase Greatness for us.
I get it. You want to be great. Yeah.
Yes. This company vision is the belief that greatness already exists within everyone. And we want to help them find and showcase it.
Yeah.
And to add to this, we believe greatness manifests in many different ways. So while winning is definitely greatness, we want to win. Don't get us wrong. When we're saying this, we're not just saying this for fluff and we're saying, yeah, if we lose, we can showcase greatness. Otherwise, no, we're saying we want to win.
Right.
And I hope the record speaks for itself.
It does so far.
Go to Worlds. This is why we take everything seriously. We have our Deep Sea Quest jersey. But showcase greatness truly does manifest in many different ways, and that's our belief. It manifests in winning. It manifests in being passionate in your work, choosing to help others before yourself, and just doing the right thing. And sometimes that's really hard, and I'll say this as a brand that's supposed to be wholesome and good. Sometimes it's really hard to be kind and to be the better person. And so we want to highlight that of you being vulnerable is not you being weak. You being vulnerable is strong and putting yourself out there and having courage. So greatness is all those different ways to be, manifested. And that's why we do things such as our Go Green Initiative, our Tree Quest, Sea Quest, because those are forms of greatness, while also putting as much effort into winning and our competitive success. But again, like I said, I trust our staff to do that and
Right.
focus on that. And my focus is more on our, leadership and vision and making sure we have that strong culture. And I am actually really in the weeds from things like even designing our jerseys.
That's
Actually.
amazing.
Yeah.
So Showcase Greatness resonates with me specifically on a very personal level because it actually ties into something that I learned in acting school. And I talked to Artemis about this last week, but Stella Adler used to say that growth as an actor and as a human being are synonymous, that they cannot be separated, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that in order to become a better actor, I need to first become a better human. I cannot become a better actor than I am already human, right? And so this needs to improve in order for this other thing to improve.
Yes.
And that to me kind of ties into this idea of showcasing greatness. Like, yes, we're still going to go for the wins. We still want to pick up the victories, but we as people, as a collective humanity, want to better ourselves, as well as, while we're on this quest for, sports greatness, doesn't mean these other aspects of humanity and ourself can't also be expressed as great.
Dash, I couldn't agree more. Again, so sometimes I get asked, or it's assumed that, hey, you're focusing on this is great, but to play devil's advocate, like, how does this help you competitively, or how does this help your revenue, or
It's a good
numbers
question.
and all these things, right?
How does it?
Yes, so people ask that, and my point is very similar to what you just said, in that, like, our vision gave us purpose and direction, right? Everything we did was in support of our company vision, and it helped us create a strong, healthy company culture, united under one goal. And alignment is everything. Alignment is actually really hard to do, and that is my full-time job in making sure we're aligned. And we were able to achieve alignment internally, and that vision manifested itself into everything we did, from hiring to our viewing parties to career workshops, our women's merch, etc. And it, again, like I said, it made things simpler but not
Right.
easier. And the truth is, like I mentioned, that was the first thing I worked on when I joined FlyQuest in 2018, and we established that. And that was because that was, in my opinion, the first step in creating brand equity, defining the why, the purpose. And by doing that, that allows you to create a lot of products, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like the things we have, Go Green, Showcase, Go Green, Tree Quest, Sequest, and those are now sellable assets. This now allows you to position yourself when you're talking to sponsors and have true differentiation, and then go into your products and how you're doing it, right? What you're doing it, but all from the why. And this also, in my opinion, having strong culture, and we got the greenhouse this year, the facility, our facility. It actually looks like a greenhouse, and having this umbrella allowed us to have alignment, not just from our business staff, because I think that's when I first joined. I was, more in charge of the business staff and did all this. And I joined as COO to clarify. So I was in charge of operations.
Gotcha.
And revenue. And so now as CEO, by having this and really being able to speak to this, not just with our staff, we have monthly flight plans that are like internal company meetings that I host with all of our staff and our players. Because we're all united, it allows us to, again, have that purpose, allow our players to understand what our brand is about. So that's why they're never caught off guard. Any interview that you have with our players, they're also resonating everything that we're standing for and why it's important. Even our floral jerseys for spring, Santorno was like, this means a lot to me because it reminds me of my grandma, and she used to love gardening and her flowers and all this. And when you get clips from our games, they're spamming like trees at the end when they're hitting Nexus, like they dive a fountain to try to get more kills and plant more trees or raise more money for the coral reefs.
Right.
So I think like all of this has just like taught me a lot, actually, because the alignment is so important internally. And admittedly, I think what we didn't do well, because I want to be honest,
please,
is we didn't put the same energy externally as we did internally. So internally, everybody knew from 2018 what FlyQuest stood for. Showcase Greatness existed in 2018. It was literally my first week I worked on. I fought to make sure this was the first thing. Cool. And I know for a lot of people, it seems like it's a new thing that we just came up in 2020. Right. And that is on us. That is our fault. That is something we have to be accountable for. And before I was promoted to CEO this year,
Mm-hmm.
I learned that internally, within our org, we had this North Star of showcase greatness that gave us direction and purpose and everything we needed. Boy, did we not put enough energy externally, because nobody knows this. Nobody knows why we're doing career workshops or women's merch. Are like, yeah, that's pretty cool, I guess, because they have a female CEO. But no, it's more than that. And so as CEO this year, since I got promoted, I was like,
Yeah.
my priority is to share our vision so that everyone knows that what we do always has a purpose and can always tie back to our vision. Like what you said, it has to be linear. It has to have that string of like, oh, they're doing this because of showcase greatness.
Right.
And I think, and this is where I have to be proud of all of our staff and everyone, but we did a better job this year in showing everyone exactly what that means, what our initiatives are, and why we're doing things like Go Green, TreeQuest, SeaQuest. And I think we finally are associated with what we set out to be, and that's something I'm really grateful for and happy about.
I mean, I 100% agree. The tree spam, the fish spams, fish gods, all of that is evidence of how FlyQuest is ingraining itself, as a brand within the franchised era. There's oh my God, 15 things that came out of that. And I'm going to try and organize my thoughts.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Come at you. No, it's fantastic.
Sorry to talk to you.
It's very rare that I get somebody who's just could just do the whole interview themselves. I don't even know why I'm here. We should have just put you on camera for an hour. No, there's so I'm an analogy driven person, and one of the things that resonated with me there that you were speaking of is this idea that alignment is super key. And I don't think that that's necessarily an epiphany for some people, but the analogy or the thing that really spoke to me, or the way that spoke to me, was this idea that, oh my God, did it just leave my brain?
Sometimes it do.
I just had one of those moments. Oh no. Where I completely lost it. Oh, this idea of how they say, give yourself parameters, give yourselves a box, and you can be more creative, right? If you don't have guidelines, there's this idea, like you said, oh, we're just going to be the winning sports team. Well, that's not really an identity, right? But if we give ourselves those guidelines of, hey, we're going to be the showcase greatness team, and everything is now, identified and defined or driven by that. Well, actually, you can come up with these initiatives, but you never would have come up with that initiative if you wouldn't have done TreeQuest if you didn't have showcase greatness as your driver.
Exactly.
If you just said,
and we didn't pick Go Green and have this, then they'll be like, let's showcase greatness through this random thing here. This looks cool. This opportunity. And I think that's what happens too often.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Just what you said, this parameter. I always tell them, here's your sandbox and go play with it. Go wild.
We're back. Tricia,
Yay!
we lost you for a moment. The internet gods got in the way of our full uninterrupted interview, but the fish gods went and had a word with the internet gods, and we are back online. So thank you, fish gods, for that. But Tricia, we were just kind of getting into this concept of team identity and creativity, and how you can ultimately unlock people within an organization to be creative and explore, but within a trajectory. And so we kind of had this idea of building a box, building some guidelines, but how that can force creativity and freedom in a weird way.
Yeah, I actually think, and this might be a hot take, but structure and direction allows us to be more creative, as counterintuitive as that sounds. And even working with our creatives in the beginning, they told me eventually that when I was talking about process, and this is a process issue and here are the things we need, initially they thought, there's no way I can streamline what I'm doing. I work the most efficient way as possible. I do the best. There's nothing you can help me make better, Tricia. Why are we talking about workflows and all these things? And now there are my team, my creative team and content team are the ones saying, this is a process issue. Let's not blame each other. Let's not blame the other departments. Where did we go wrong? Where's the workflow? Let's work with Tricia. What is the issue? What are some solutions? And that allows them to just be more successful. But I think more than anything, what's most important is that all of this gives purpose.
Right.
And purpose is everything. And I think that drives success. So a lot of people will ask me, why did you get into esports? Why do you think you're successful? What is some advice you can give? And I think having a purpose is where you have to start. And that's why we created Showcase Greatness.
I was just going to say, so I
No.
imagine in finding a company purpose, that's not an easy thing to do if you as an individual haven't done some of that, you know, your own reflective work to know what the answers are for yourself individually. So maybe you could explain to me a bit how you found that in your personal life before you could help guide FlyQuest to finding the same answer.
Yeah, so as cheesy as this may sound, I've always wanted to make people happy. You can even look at my kindergarten journals that I found at my mom's place the other day when I was
Those are
cleaning
the
my room.
best.
When you writes like, "What do you want to do?" and I put
Right.
like, "I want to be a flower teacher one day. I want
Woo!
to make people happy," and I was really proud of myself. I'm man, I actually did it, you know, because I'm a
You
Ikebana sensei.
are. Yeah.
And so I think always having that purpose has always been my motivation for any work I've done. So even when I first started out streaming, I wanted to make my channel like a prototype of Paradise on Earth. Regardless of trolls, haters, I wanted it to be a place of gratitude. And that's why I did branding actually. So
Yeah.
my screen name is called Megumi X Bear, and I called my fans Bear Cubs. I did Bear Cup tournaments, which are tournaments I hosted and ran. I actually used all my streaming money to do that.
Wow.
And I did bear packs. People who won a bear cup tournament would get a bear pack, and those are like Japanese candy, a personal note, and coaching lessons or things like that. And it was always about helping others. So I always did you're much appreciated or just happy to the bear
Yeah.
cubs who know. Actually, my hoigoys that I've been doing as videos for FlyQuest is a throwback to that. And
Yeah.
it was always it helped me have that structure, right? That direction, as you're saying. And that's why I did meetups. And this is back this is back when Twitch TV was like Justin TV, by the way. So this is
Right.
very
Yeah. We
beginning.
talking old school. Yeah.
Yeah, super old school. And this is before people did meetups and you know the Dr. Disrespects of the world who have amazing branding and marketing and production.
Right, but now have whole teams for that,
Yes,
right? Like you
exactly.
were doing this in an era where, well, everyone was figuring it out for the first time, so it
Yes.
was just a bunch of individuals. Yeah,
Yes. And I think that's what allowed me to be very successful on my stream because I was just being true to myself and knew what I wanted to do. So I actually did a meetup. I'm born and raised in LA. So there's a city called Arcadia and
hmm
there's a park. And right across the park, there's a hospital. So I
yeah,
actually contacted the hospital, did a partnership with them, and said, hey, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I would love to host a meetup at the park with some of my community. We're going to make hundreds of flower arrangements. Is it okay if we come by this day and hand deliver them to your patients, any patients in particular who have cancer or scoliosis?
wow,
For some context, I have scoliosis, and that is a insecurity I dealt with uh, to like not cutting my hair for a long time and you know wanting to cover my back or not wearing a bikini or a backless dress like these are
hmm
things I struggled with in my adolescent years and so I wanted to use my streaming platform to share that vulnerability. If I really wanted to make people happy, then that means I had to be put myself out there and talk
right,
about things that maybe I'm not comfortable with and have that focus and that purpose, right? That purpose allowed me to have that courage and cancer because actually during all this time when I was streaming, my dad was diagnosed with cancer suddenly and he was told he had 3 months to live. So
I'm very sorry to hear that.
yeah, thank you. He passed in that time, but my stream uh, gave me purpose and allowed me to have a platform to make people happy and have that focus. So that is why, just going back to sorry,
That's
why
all
I
right.
did the Ikebana arrangements and why specifically for those patients. So we did a meetup and over 40 plus people showed up
Wow,
amazingly. And these are people from the Dota community, the Starcraft community, League of Legends, and communities that especially back then didn't get along. You know, people weren't talking about like this is gaming, we're all one community. It was very much
right,
about what games do you play, this is better, and so forth. And I had that messaging of I'm inviting all of you guys because at the end of the day, we're just gamers. Like let's just focus on that. Like let's make people happy. So we arranged 200 like man, we arranged like hundreds of flower arrangements and given to the hospital. Actually, if you go back to my YouTube channel, which I haven't uploaded in a long time, you can actually see uh, the result of that. And I did all streaming and I did like a donation fund. I used all the money for the Ikebana arrangements and to take out the people to eat who joined. And same with the Bear Cup tournaments. It was my fans said, I would love to hear you casting. You're already doing interviewing and hosting, and you're a competitive player. But we would love to see you cast. So I was like, cool, I'm going to make my own tournaments and also use streaming money to do that. I think I hosted over 70 plus Bear Cup tournaments.
Wow.
And these are for Starcraft and League. And I made sure that it was for the 99%. I also did like a pro league, but I did it by ring system. So it was like bronze to silver, gold to, gold, platinum, diamond, masters, eventually
Yeah.
grandmasters when that came out, because I thought, let's make this inclusive.
Well, so let me
Yeah,
ask you about
sure.
that. Why is inclusivity so important? I mean, I agree it's important, but why is inclusivity so important? When at the end of the day, you're looking at streaming, you could have taken the route of, let me just put smiles on people's faces. Let me just be entertaining, right? And I think what's interesting to me is that everything you've done has that extra step added to it, which is, I don't only want to be entertaining and put a smile on your face. I want it to feel inclusive, and I want you, the audience, to be involved. So why is that step of inclusivity so important to you, where other people are more than happy to just say, I'm an entertainer, and we leave it at that?
Sorry, I'm getting emotional. I think it's because gaming has given me so much. And I too, I think a lot of the times we do things for other people, and I wanted it to, again, my channel, Megumi Expert channel, to be a place of gratitude and to make people happy. And I think it's because I went through struggle that I realized, or I mean, I always knew it was important to make people happy, but I think that's why I care so much more, because, I was hurting. It allowed me to have global reach and connect to all these bear cubs that I eventually met in person, who flew from even Europe to IPL to meet me in person.
Wow.
I met some of my best friends from through esports. My fiance I actually met through Dota. And it's just about a choice, I think, really. It's just like, I want to make people happy, and how can I best do that? It's easy to just make people laugh and smile, but how can I do more? And I think I'm such a tryhard. I'm trying to do more because, when my dad was alive, I told him, like, every time before I stream, I always, pray or have positive thoughts, whatever you want to call it, to remind myself to be grounded, as funny as that sounds. But like at that point, like, I was one of the biggest streamers on Twitch, and they would use me for like Webby commercials, Webby award commercials, before, when Twitch needed help doing that, right? They would use me for a lot of assets, and sometimes you get the ego, for sure. And I admittedly did. I'm like, wow, I'm getting pretty famous and all this. And then I would have to remember, like,
we can all relate to that, I'm sure, in some fashion, but sorry to interrupt.
No. And I had to remember, like, this is not about me.
Yeah.
I'm being used kind of as an instrument to make people happy, and I need to remember that and stay grounded. So I would have that, like, thought before I stream and try to do more. And honestly, that has given me so much success. That's why I'm so big on serving the community, serving others, making people happy, because I truly think the key to happiness is making other people happy. Obviously, take care of yourself. Moderation is key. All of these things are very important. But, all of my success really was inspired by listening to my fans at the time. Creating Bear Cup tournaments was something that I got pretty big on. It became pretty big in the community because no one else was really doing that, especially for like the amateur scene, if you will. Again, I did it for the pro scene as well, and we had like GSL winners and all these crazy pros join as well. But I wanted to say, like, hey, if Masters even back then is like the top, I don't know, 0 whatever percent,
right,
and that means there's all this other percent that's not being served. So how can I be inclusive? And they were like, we want you to cast. So I just made my own and worked with sponsors to fund it, and use my streaming money to do that, because again, I had a full-time job outside of esports, right? Esports was kind of just my hobby, if you will, or what I really loved.
Which is baffling to me, that you had time for a full-time job, and then also to find the level of success that you did in your streaming days, and curtail it to here. But
thank you so much. But like, I think that's all it's just about: listening to the fans, making them happy. And that's why I branched out and did hosting and all that. I really have to give credit to my Bear Cubs and just people who supported me.
Well, hell yeah. And so I want to go a little bit deeper on this idea of your history as a streamer. And also, so I'm going to tie it into two things. One, your personal experience, but also two, maybe a holistic kind of look at esports as being different from traditional sports. I think one of the big differences is that immediate feedback loop. Sure, people are talking about the NBA on Twitter as well, but pro players specifically in esports generally also have way more direct access to their fans. One, you could queue up in challenge or solo queue and end up playing against them. Two, you can go tune into their stream and flame them directly if you want. There's Reddit, there's all of these things.
Oh, yeah.
Do you feel like, though, your experience as a streamer prepared you in a way that, say, a CEO coming in from a traditional sport and trying to make that crossover is not prepared for the esports space because you've had this experience of direct interfacing with an audience, your audience?
I definitely think so. And honestly, since I did IPL 3, 4, and 5, that's actually, for those of you who don't know, that's when like TSM played their first tournament, right? So that's when Reggie was a player. That's when I met Reggie. And this is when Jack was working for TSM. I've known all these people. And Turtle, he likes to say, like, Tricia's known me since I was a young turtle because I was there for, I was interviewing him and Void Boy and Dyrus and everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think it's helped me get credibility with our players, especially some of them knew me as like a top player for Starcraft 2. And more than anything, I think I have a lot of empathy because as mean as it sounds, and this is actually true, you can find it on VODs, unfortunately, but when I was playing Starcraft, some people would spam like cancer scoliosis after, like, just be really mean. It's not even
horrid.
That's like
that's just not even trolling. Ugh.
Yeah, so I had to go through that and like still put a smile on my face.
Right.
And I would say like, hey, I respond to hate with love because I wanted, it wasn't about me. Again, as weird as that sounds, like I was trying to create something bigger than me and that legacy. And that is what we're trying to do with FlyQuest. Is I ask the players all the time, like, how do you want to be remembered? Yeah, you want to win and all this, but you know who's awesome? And again, I have bias because I'm born and raised from LA, like Kobe, right? Mamba mentality and everything that he did is he's more than just a basketball player on the court. So that's why I stress like, hey, content, your branding is not just so you have a future.
Right.
Because you do need to think about that.
But that is a big piece of it.
Yes.
All of you aspiring esports pros, listen to this. You need to be aware of building a brand.
Because sometimes maybe your ELO or whatever you want to call it, your skill set is about same as a player, but you're more personable. You're more likable. This is just how work is. You know, this is just how life is. So I think having that perspective, and I speak to them very candidly because I care. Because I care, and I just call them out. I'm like, yo, you're not even tweeting after your games. Like, I'm waiting for you. Like, I bet everybody else is waiting to hear from you.
Right.
And so and I try to compliment them like, oh my God, that interview was amazing. You did something. Or like, Solo, you're like the bad boy of FlyQuest.
Yeah.
We can only have one bad boy, but look, you
right. Yeah. We're on the Live Good team here. We're on the Live Good team.
Yes.
But,
so I think it's very important because, no matter what, players get burnout sometimes. And sometimes in the middle of the season, later in the season, seeding is locked, right, etc. And it's easy to kind of lose focus in the game or whatever you're going through personal. So I think having something outside of the competitive record gives them some extra incentive. Of course, they care about winning. Don't get me wrong. Don't misquote me, people. We're 100% invested in winning.
That's it. No, they've given up. They've given up on the postseason.
But our players really enjoy that. And I always tell them what is inspiring for me, because I'm a basketball fan, is like bigger than basketball. And what does that mean? What are you watching? And how do we be bigger than esports? How do we live that legacy? What can you do with your platform? And I challenge them all the time and talk about like what is personal to me, because I'm trying to lead by example. I'm not trying to preach them because it won't matter.
Right.
But those are the things I'm just trying to instill, at least get them to think about without being distracting to the game. Obviously, they have to focus on the game. But at the same time, I think you can do both. Everyone says they want to be more than just an esports organization, and now's the time to act.
I mean, but I think that is a key phrase that you just dropped. Everybody wants to be, right? Not everybody is, and not everybody is taking the active steps to become that, right? And I think that's where you see some of the real differentiators between an organization like yours and some others, where the money is where the mouth is, quite literally, for FlyQuest, right? With your initiatives and the Deep Sea Quest currently still going strong. I kind of want to focus in on that a little bit. Number one, maybe let's reflect on the 2 quests that we've gone on so far, Tree Quest and Sea Quest. Why was it specifically those 2 that you decided to go for first? But also, what's in store for the future? How many more initiatives we got? Are you guys already cooking up, 2021's quests? Or a World's Quest?
Yes.
Will there be a separate World's Quest, or does Sea Quest keep going?
Because this is a queue and Dash is doing an amazing job. I'm not just saying this. I will give you some leaks because I can. So yes, we're already working on Worlds. We're gonna have an exclusive jersey.
Yes.
We are already designing it. We're mocking it up. It will be. I'm thinking about my team. I'm like, you know what? But I can make this call. So it'll encompass, I think, a lot of what we did this year. I can tell you that.
Cool.
So we have Tree Quest, we have Sea Quest. So I think you'll see some sort of.
I have an idea. I've got some ideas already.
For Worlds, we're going to do a stronger quest, like how we do like Super Tree Quest, Deep Sea Quest.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be something along those lines. We want to gamify it and get you guys involved because that's what FlyQuest is about, right? This isn't just about what we can do, and this is why we already exists within you guys, that greatness. We want you guys to join in, so we're going to invite you to do that.
Yes.
And then for 2021, because my owners are awesome and hold me accountable, which I love, we're already working on that next week for 2021, our whole business model and everything else. Yes.
That's important. Well, I love hearing that you'd like to get us involved. That's something that I've wanted to get kicked up here, more than ever. So please let me know. Reach out as soon as you know how any of us can help. I know quarantine era obviously is a limiting factor for a lot of us, but maybe once we're not in the remote world anymore, I would love to get out there and really do some charity work. And let's put some positivity and love out into the world.
Yes, thank you so much. Actually, for those of you who don't know, actually we have Deep Sea Quest going on. So that is like Super Sea Quest, if you will. And, we're already contributing to the Coral Reef Alliance. We actually have a total of $69.69 right now out of the $10,000.
Well, we can't donate anymore.
Champions of the Reef.
Yeah. We're gonna have to leave it at that number.
So we're doing a lot, and if you guys, donate to our Twitch channel, which has our LCS Aquarium, or subscribe, all of those proceeds 100% go to Coral Reef.
Twitch.tv/FlyQuest.
Yes, thank you.
Simple enough, easy enough. Yeah, definitely go check it out. Love the aquarium. I mean, it's little things like that. Whose idea was that? Was that your idea? Just to, bring in the aquarium?
I definitely have to shout out our COO, Michael Choi. It's a combination. We actually, I think because we're sharing so much, we're actually a really small team at FlyQuest. We have 8 people on our business staff. So I am not just the CEO who's, out here on these talks and doing this. I'm literally was a creative director for our jersey design for our fall jersey. That was like Ikebana inspiration. I wanted to do purple because that's my favorite color.
It's my favorite color.
Yeah,
I love purple. Yes. I went to NYU, purple, violet.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's ingrained in me.
So purple and violet is actually, so we did obviously more research, but violet is actually the state flower for Wisconsin.
Oh, cool.
And we have roots back to the Midwest. Our ownership owns the Milwaukee Bucks, so that was an homage. And, I think this is what you mentioned before, and what we talked about is 2018, when I first joined FlyQuest in January, that was first week I worked on our company vision.
Yeah.
And it allowed us to have the culture and structure and all the success. It had the foundation. These are all internal wins. Externally, though, because we didn't take control of our narrative, other people defined it for us, and that was our mistake and where we could have been better. And at that time, honestly, our current president wasn't like that vocal. So as CEO now, I and him and I talked, and we have a really great relationship. Shout out to Ryan, he's awesome. It was about taking that control and driving that narrative. So I had the privilege, and he allowed me the privilege to think about our first initiative. And because I'm all about nature, because nature inspires me, it's harmonious, it's graceful, it's beautiful, but it's strong. Nature always perseveres, right? Even through concrete, the roots, it'll be jagged because nothing can stop it. And that's kind of the team we want to be. We want to win with grace. And so that's why we did our Go Green initiative first, was how do we brand this? How do we really message this out and capture this. So we did Go Green. And back to your point of like why we're doing TreeQuest, Sequest is because those are things we personally care about. We want to make it fun. Like, okay, so at the top we have Showcase Greatness, our vision. Underneath that layer we have our Go Green initiative, and this will be for at least this year. Who knows? We might continue it on. And then underneath that we created campaigns like TreeQuest and Sequest.
But so this is so cool because you can always draw that line back to the top, and it solidifies this idea that the identity, right? Knowing what is your mission statement and your identity, your purpose, as you had put it, is so clearly defined that it gives you direction in everything else you choose to do. Now, what I think is interesting is you mentioned the fact that FlyQuest wasn't always in control of their own narrative. You have wrestled control of your own narrative. And I think that that's been really impactful to the brand's explosion over this year. On top of performance, you mentioned that at the beginning of the interview, at the end of the day, we're a sport. Winning is important. And, fans want to see us win. But, let's talk about, I think just from a brand perspective, let's talk about the importance of controlling that narrative. As opposed to letting other people define it for you, because we've literally seen organizations' lifespans ended because they weren't able, to necessarily control their own narrative within the LCS.
Absolutely. So let's be honest, because I'm always honest, for better or for worse. We turned a brand that was known for its cringe level social media, right? AKA Team Snickers, that has haunted me forever. I'm not going to say more than that. Sometimes you have deliverables to do.
Look,
and
Snickers are delicious.
It is what it is, right? They are delicious.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. Into a recognizable brand that it is today, right? And I think that's something that's not so apparent in other orgs, as you mentioned, like being known as the so-and-so team. I think we position ourselves distinctly as the wholesome, good, charitable organization. And I'm very proud of this. I'm proud of our team because we did what we stated that we would do. Like we actually accomplished that. I literally told my team in many meetings, if there's one word association with FlyQuest, I want it to be wholesome. Okay. And we did that. Everyone called us that. And it's not by, we're planting little seeds here and there, good branding messaging.
Right.
But it happened. Like it everything that we set out to do came to fruition. Like I wanted to make sure we have a strong rebrand this year. I wanted to make sure that my promotion as CEO was impactful, not just for our competitive. We have our most competitive run this year. Yep. I don't want to take credit for that. Like that is definitely, I want to give credit to all of our players and competitive staff, definitely. But I do think the leadership and culture and structure and giving them, the vision and all this other thing for a facility, all of this does help, right? These are things that are factors that help, but obviously most of the credit I want to give to them. and for branding, right, and our marketing and business sense, like it's helped us tremendously. Now people know why we're doing it, which is so important. I don't want them to just see like our women's merch and a career workshop and they're like, oh, that's pretty nice. Like what they're doing is like pretty good. It's now they're like, I get it, because they're all about showcase greatness.
Yeah.
Tricia launched this initiative of Go Green, and this is what she means by it. She really wants to help and facilitate ways for all of us to help the planet, right? And I really want to stress that, like, we all facilitate ways, because this has to be a group effort. This can't just be FlyQuest, like, look at us. No, we need your guys' help.
Right. Right. It's not us just being cheerleaders to FlyQuest doing all the good work. Yeah.
Yes. And that's why we can think of like, okay, cool. When we're doing our Go Green initiative, how do we want to start? And we think about things that we all care about. We talk as a company, as a collective, and you kind of ask like, whose idea were all of these? Again, we're a small team. We're only like 8. And a lot of this, like our messaging and myself is kind of like a duo of our CEO and myself, if we provide that vision. But then we have awesome people like, Ricky, who's our VP of content, who can, he makes that a reality, right? He gets that direction and he makes our awesome jersey trailers and everything else. We can put that together. But a lot of it, just to give you guys some background, like I'm super involved. Like our Animal Crossing stuff, a lot of those are my ideas for the TSM thing. Actually, like our social person at the time texted me and said, did you see this? Why are we chopping down a tree? I'm like, yo, we can take risks like this as long as we do it in a way that fits our brand. Obviously we put a lot of care, and that's why like we bowed to the tree first, and we're saying this. Make fun of TSM and TreeSM. So we're finding creative ways to, I think it's easy because like we're genuine fans. Like I'm reading Reddit all the time, for better or for worse, or I'm looking at what's going on and the memes. I genuinely enjoy it. I still watch Lyric play so much playthroughs, you know, like I play games every single night more than I should. And
What are you playing mostly right now? Just out of curiosity, what are the games?
Valorant
Val.
and
Okay.
League, but mostly Valorant.
What's the okay? Who's your go-to agent?
Sage and Cypher.
I'm a Cypher main. A Cypher main, 100%.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, I love Cypher.
But sometimes Cypher's too boring, you know? They push you one time, you do a good job, they never push you again. You're helping as a team.
Yeah.
But man, I'm like bottom
feeling.
frag. No, I can't shoot anyone.
It's a good feeling when you hit them with the traps enough times that they're like, I'm just done flanking. I'm
Yeah.
never going to flank for the rest of the game. You're like, yes, I win. I totally feel that.
For sure. Anchor site.
Let's you want to do some rapid fire questions?
Yes, sure.
Let's do some rapid fire questions and then we'll round it out by talking about playoffs and what's coming. So you used to be a top 8 master Starcraft player. If you could pick a Starcraft strategy that best describes how you, Tricia, live your life, what would that strategy be?
So I'm a Terran player.
The Terran main, yeah.
Terran main, yeah. Terran main, I played all the races just to have my street cred.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure how many people will understand StarCraft 2 references in this day and age, but we're going to go for it.
Yeah, we'll try.
Yeah, I definitely live life with a fast expand mindset.
Okay.
I'm talking CC before Rax.
Wow.
I have a very ambitious, sometimes greedy, I'll admit, personality that makes me want to hoard all the resources before anybody else does. So
gotcha.
I want to put myself.
So you're dropping a 3rd and 4th, like command center?
It depends what my matchup is, but
Okay.
I usually am like a total macro player because I want to put myself in a position to succeed and focus on the long term, right?
Yeah.
I want to win, but I want to win on my own terms. I don't want to cheese. And I think I want to win with like enough flexibility to adapt to any situation. So also have a timing push with my fast expand, but like I can either have that win condition, but then I also have backup plans and I'm thinking of scaling like in case they also fast expand or they held my push timing, you know, I'm still macroing at the same time.
Yeah.
That's usually my play.
Do you have any idea what your APM was like at your top end?
Yeah, for sure. So it wasn't accurate because sometimes I just wanted to be like July's throwback to like Brood War Zerg player who had like 400 APM, so sometimes I just like spam.
Right, you're just hitting a button just to hit the button.
Like so I'd like I'd be like, yeah, 400 APM, but I don't think it was like actually like productive APM. I think probably I hovered around like 300 or 200.
That's disgusting.
That's
just
like
disgusting.
I think if I played now,
me.
I'd probably be like 150. I don't know, much slower,
That's
but you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4,
gross.
1, 2, 3, 4. To be fair, it's because I played a ton of Brood War,
Mm-hmm.
so it was much harder than like grouping everything in Starcraft.
Right. Yeah, they're making things a lot easier on players nowadays with the different groupings and hotkeys that you can come up with. But still, I mean, I've never been a mechanically impressive player. So specifically RTS players like yourself are some of the most impressive gamers to me. All right, next up, if young Tricia could be transported forward in time to now, what ice cream flavor would she dip her French fries in?
How do you guys know? First of all,
are you big on that?
You guys, the Q
well,
has
you
done
grew
an
up in
amazing
LA.
job. Yes.
So
thank you for doing real research.
This is the important research.
You guys totally looked through my like old Megumi Expert YouTube to know this. Okay, so the classic vanilla soft serve ice cream, or from McDonald's, obviously.
From McDonald's, okay.
Yes.
I was gonna say because you're an LA girl, so maybe In-N-Out. Like I'm a San Diego boy. I grew up in San Diego, so like In-N-Out, French fries.
For sure, I would the
shakes,
shakes, frozen custard, frosty, whatever. I would just dump it in my French fries, and I grew up to also dip my chicken nuggets.
What? All right, that's a little much for me. I'm with you on the French fries. I would do chocolate though. I'm a chocolate fiend, so In-N-Out chocolate milkshakes. But you said vanilla is your go-to.
Vanilla, dump it, and next time you can try chicken nuggets.
I will.
We know how it goes.
Maybe we'll entertain the idea. Okay, what is inspiring or motivating to you right now? It can be a book, song, movie, quote, person, anything.
Right now is for sure Michael Jordan, The Last Dance. It's so
great series. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it.
It really just captures what it really takes to win. And I don't just mean in a game, but like what it is to excel and how much you have to sacrifice. It is not easy. And you know what? He's not there complaining. It's just, I just love it. So Michael Jordan, Last Dance, Kobe, Mamba mentality. Again, I love Lakers from LA, and just Mamba mentality is, I say like try hard, people try to offend me, like, ooh, and Valen, like, oh my god, you're such a try hard. Like I'm like, thank
Screw
you.
that. Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
not an insult.
why wouldn't I try my best at anything, or else I'm just wasting my time, right? I
Yep.
don't have time to waste. So mama mentality, and probably Dumbledore's quote, like we must all face the choice between what is right and what is easy, because that is really hard to do. I want to say, as a wholesome brand, it is hard to
Mm,
always be kind and do the right thing, and it takes courage and a lot of patience and everything else and respect. So
yeah.
that, and my own quote is, you don't ask, you don't get. I tell my staff that.
Ooh, that's actually hugely important, and hugely important for, I think, young people who are moving into professional industries to understand. So I love to hear that you're passing that along to a lot of the younger guns. This isn't one of the rapid fire questions, because we're talking about things that motivate you or inspire you to some degree. You dropped, and we've talked about it a couple times here, Ikebana, the Japanese art of flower arranging, but you dropped that you are an Ikebana sensei. So you said that phrase. So please elaborate. What is that? What is required to be that, to become that? And what is the definition of that?
Yeah, so ikebana literally means, like, ikeru is like to give life, if you will, and bana is like ohana, flower, so to bring life to flowers. So it's
Okay.
a loose translation. Basically, it's flower arrangement. And in ikebana, it's very similar to martial arts, where there's different schools of it. So like you can take kung fu, you can take taekwondo, you can take karate, something like that, right? There's
Right.
different styles, so they're all martial arts, all
Yep.
ikebana. The ikebana I take is called zangetsu ikebana, and it's all very much about gratitude. It's about making people happy through your flower arrangements. It's about creating beauty and kind of saving the world through beauty.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Sometimes I say this, I sound cheesy, but I truly believe this, because I think beauty is so important. Like to appreciate and to have that daily practice of gratitude. I think it's so imperative, and so that's why we create it. It's to appreciate beauty, appreciate nature, and like most other worthwhile hobbies, like respect, harmony, diligence, attention to detail.
Okay.
So it's not, it's, I guess it's different than bouquets you usually see, which are really full and kind of, let's just say, really full.
Yeah.
Mine is more minimalistic, because you
Mm.
want to appreciate every single stem, leaf, flower, branch, and even empty space.
Right.
So that's why if you actually look at a lot of our jerseys and a lot of our design, it's very minimalistic and clean, because that is kind of my aesthetic preference. As you know, and I guess going back to flower arrangements, it's all about that, appreciating nature. And I would love to, have others think about other people when they create an ikebana arrangement, right? So when they place it in a room, they're thinking like, I'm not just grateful for this, I'm grateful for the people who are going to watch it or look at it, and the people who look at it appreciate it, because like, wow, that's so pretty. And it's just like this cycle of gratitude and appreciation.
I love that. I love that so much. All right, next up, best victory as CEO of FlyQuest.
Definitely, I'm proud of a lot of things. Everything's been amazing so far, and being able to carry out my vision through FlyQuest, there's definitely no better feeling. But I think what I'm very most proud of since I took over is, I mentioned changing our cringe level social media Team Snickers brand to a recognizable brand that it is today, and really defining like what a company vision is. I think we're one of the first teams to really do that, to have a clear company vision, to have clear initiatives and campaigns, and to tie our marketing to competitive success. Like no one's done that. Like our, tree quest, sea quest, planting 10,000 trees. We want to be champions of the reef with sea quest, raised $10,000. We claimed the FlyQuest drake, which is the ocean drake.
Yeah.
I hope that trends people. Please, I want to say that in chat more, please, on Twitch. I'm trying to spam that sometimes, and
The FlyQuest
I get timed out. Yeah, but like instead of the ocean drake, we want that to be the FlyQuest drake. And I think we've been really clever and like breaking through our jerseys. I got pushback internally initially of like, why are we doing this? This is so weird. Why are we having floral? Because even traditional sports don't have this. And I'm like, who said esports jersey had to be anyways? We're doing this. Like when we're saying go green, FlyQuest hasn't owned our brand. So let's actually own it by 2020. And with my promotion, I got to make that call luckily. So I'm like, we're just doing this, and let's own it through our jersey, through our aesthetic, everything we do, everything we say, everything our players have to say. We have to let them know what we're trying to do. And this is why I don't have the meetings just with our business staff. It's with
Yeah.
competitive. I need them to know what we're doing and why, so they can speak to it, right? And they can get their motivation. Everybody has to be in line. And I think doing all that has just been, the best victory overall.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, so final personal question here. Decades from now, some number of decades in the future, you've retired and you're sitting down to dinner and reflecting on your career with your favorite meal and your favorite drink in hand. One, what are you eating? What are you drinking? And then two, what are your reflections on your life to that point?
So if we somehow survive 2020,
right, you're right. We got to get through this year, but assuming we do.
Yeah. So all jokes aside, I'd probably never retire. I'm going to be like 70 years old before I think about retiring. I love work too much.
I'm with you there, to be honest.
And just want to be involved as long as possible. Again, because like for me, esports is this is not just like my career or like, oh, I got into esports because it was a cool opportunity or it's a growing industry or whatever. I'm a gamer. It's like, it means so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would love to be involved as much as I'm allowed. But I guess when the time comes, I'll be somewhere in my garden. I've always had a dream of, ever since I was little, again, to make other people happy. My ultimate dream is to make a huge garden that has a lot of flowers from all over the world and free for everyone, because I do believe beauty can make people happy, and have that expression of gratitude can help give us salvation in some way. So I want to have a big public garden accessible for everyone. And when I retire, I think I'll be looking at my garden, appreciating it. I will be eating.
Yeah, this is the big one.
Uni, scrambled eggs with some brioche toast.
Okay.
Greek, you can tell how much of a foodie I am.
Greek I'm obsessed with food, so
with fresh berries and granola.
Ooh.
And a glass of fresh squeezed orange juice.
This is a perfect meal to be sitting in a garden,
Yes.
to be sitting in a garden
right?
at like 10:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning.
And a side of tea, maybe.
Exactly, yeah. Getting ready to watch the LCS, whatever the form of LCS is 70 years from now, when we're all old. Oh, Lord.
And I'll probably still be thinking about how to best improve the processes in my garden and like how to maximize the land.
No, you're done. You're retired.
To best present like every flower, every tree, and just showcase greatness through and through.
I love it. All right. Well, on the topic of showcasing greatness and the current mission that lies ahead of FlyQuest, you guys have a really tough battle against Cloud9 coming up here. This is a rematch of the spring finals, in which you guys did fall just short, but did mark the best finish of the organization to date. Now you're trying to outdo yourselves with this postseason run. Just give me your overall take. What's the feeling inside the org approaching this week's games?
We're confident. We are confident.
Okay, that's what I mean.
We respect them. Obviously, we respect them. Trust me, I really love Jack. I think he's amazing at what he's doing too. Yeah. He's like a Smurf GM owner.
He really is.
He really is. but we're confident.
Yeah. Oh, did you see? It was on Countdown, one of the many days. There's been too many at this point. Where we were looking at analyst brackets, and Crumbs was the one analyst to predict FlyQuest. Actually, well, he predicted that TL would choose you guys. Unfortunately, that didn't happen for his prediction's sake. But he did predict that even if TL had chose you, you guys would win the next one, and be automatic seed into the finals. Like, did that come as a surprise? I mean, I know you guys have confidence, but did something like that come as a surprise based on the narrative that's been crafted? To be honest,
yes, we did. But I saw it and I was like, oh my God, please retweet this to FlyQuest and everybody else, and we're all in there. We love it. We're just so appreciative to like be part of the narrative now. I think FlyQuest has come from so much, and by the way, I'm not saying this like we're chilling. No, we have so much to do still.
Right.
But yes, we're really happy to see Crumb's confidence in us, because sometimes he didn't believe in us, and our fish gods have punished him.
Yeah, they definitely have done that. Well, I appreciate your appreciation, because in reality, it's you guys we should be thanking. You're a part of the narrative because you've made yourselves a part of the narrative. So if I can just kind of end this on a bit of a statement of fact, like, we talk about the things that need to be talked about and that demand to be talked about. And FlyQuest has done a phenomenal job this year specifically of inserting yourselves in the conversation and making yourselves a talking point, right? It's as simple as that. We're in the business of entertainment, as you know. And so we're going to talk about the things that people want to hear about and that we think are interesting. And you guys have made so many waves pun intended for, with Sequest there. But like, it's been just a joy to watch, and I'm so happy to have you guys in the league in your current form.
Yes, thank you.
Alrighty, well, I just give you a moment if there's anything else you'd like to say before we head into playoffs and sign off here.
You're much appreciated. Just happy. Let's showcase greatness together. And
Let's
please follow FlyQuest.
Yes, please do that on all of their channels, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and all of that. We'll see you all on Thursday for the kickoff of our games, then FlyQuest again to follow soon after against FlyQuest. Tricia, thank you so very much for working through those internet issues. Fish gods prevailed, and for joining me here on The Q. Best of luck this week.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode of The Q. You can catch Tricia's team FlyQuest take on Cloud9 this Thursday, August 20th in round 2 of the playoffs. Now, catch more of The Q on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts on all those major platforms. Just search for The Q with Dashed. Thank you so much. We'll see y'all next time.